In a world that moves fast and forgets easy, veterans, after they take off their uniforms, coaches, shaping tomorrow's leaders today, volunteers, choosing service over self, everyone has a story, and most of them exist because they kept trying. These are the stories, so they are not forgotten. My name is Bill Lau, and this is Semper Tri, because trying beats quitting. Welcome to episode 8 of Semper Tri. 8th episode already, going on 2 months. So, because trying beats quitting, we are here today. And I have a guest host, the Grinch again. I doubt he'll say much today, but for this episode, I had something happen to me here Friday before Christmas. It was a story that I thought I should share. I shared it a little bit on social media, and I just thought it'd be interesting to share on here. So it was a Friday evening. Me and the family were home, didn't know what to do for supper, and was like, well, let's go to Chinese. My oldest is like, oh yeah, let's go to Chinese. Wife's like, okay, let's go to Chinese. Youngest, he didn't want to go. He's like, well, can you bring me back McDonald's and I'll just stay here? And it's like, fine, feed the dogs, that kind of stuff. Whatever. We gave him a little chore and then he was just gonna hang out and play with his friends. So we ended up going out for supper and normal night at supper, and then we're walking out to the parking lot and it's cold. I mean, it's really cold. It has to be like 0 degrees, and wearing a sweatshirt because whatever, and you're freezing and walking fast towards the truck. And I hear this coughing off to the left, like 7, 8 vehicle rows over. The parking lot's kind of empty out in that distance. And I see a vehicle, an SUV sitting over there. And I look over and there's this guy. He's on all fours and he's coughing. And I'm like, holy crud, this guy got the flu. Is he puking? You know, 7 o'clock Friday night. Secondary thought, is he drunk and he puking? Like, wow, it's cold to be, he's not feeling well. So Zach, my oldest, was driving. So we get in the vehicle. Our vehicle's pointed the other direction. We all get in and it's running. It's a little bit warmer. And I look back and I go, is that guy still over there? And both my wife and son go, that guy, what guy? I go, there's a guy over there on the ground coughing or whatever. I think he's puking. And my wife turns around and looks and she's like, I don't see. And I'm like, yeah, that white vehicle over there. Looks and you could see him. And now the door's wide open and his back is rested against the sill of the vehicle or whatever. And he's just sitting there and his knees are up and whatever. And I go, Zach, come on, let's go. Let's go check on this guy. And Zach turns around and he's going slow. And I'm like, Zach, sometime today, let's get over there. Come on. You know? And so he pulls up and I roll down the window and I was like, okay, I'll just ask this guy if he's okay, see what's going on. And roll down the window and I was like, hey, you okay? And kind of looks up and he's crying. And I'm just like, oh no. And I open up the door and I walk out and I kneel down to his level and I'm just like, I put my hand on his shoulder and like, what's going on, man? How's it going? And he's just, you just tell he was like really depressed and whatever. And it's like, this guy ain't sick. He's having a rough time. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, my girlfriend's fighting me custody for my kid or something like that. And I'm like, and she's already got a boyfriend and we got a young kid. And I'm like, oh no, this isn't good. And I'm just like, okay. And he's just depressed and crying. And I'm just like, okay. And his hand on his shoulder, I'm like, his vehicle's running. I'm like, can we at least, it took me a couple minutes to convince him to like, let's get up into the vehicle, at least where it's warm. Tell me the story, check on you. And so he finally gets him up and sitting there. And I'm like, so tell me what's going on. How you doing? And I told me he works a lot of hours. He's working 2 jobs. He's got kicked out of his house. He's trying to, make a go of it. And, attorney bills are racking up on him and he's probably getting evicted from where he's living now. And it was just like, I was like, oh crud, this is going south. He's getting worse off. And he starts like hitting his head on the steering wheel, like just frustrated. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, it's gonna be okay. And I'm like, so I started asking him other questions like, what do you do? And what do you enjoy for fun? And I'm trying to get his mind off of the current situation and just get him to calm down. And this whole time I'm like, I thought it was escalating. It wasn't going down. It was escalating quick. And I'm like, this is not good. I don't know what's going to happen here. And so I kind of leaned over as he's like this. And I looked back at my wife and kids and I'm like, I need to be calling somebody. Call. I'm like, we need to get some help here. And I didn't know where this was going. There's so many thoughts are running through my head as I'm calm and I'm being relaxed talking to him, but like my head's racing. Like, is this guy on the verge of, hurting himself? Is he on the verge of what's going on? And so I finally get him, start to calm down, and he goes to reach for his center console of his vehicle. And first thing that comes to mind, not gonna lie, it was like, holy crud, there's probably a gun in the center console. Like, oh no. So I lean into the vehicle, like past him. And I got my eyes, I wanted to see straight into what was in that center console. And I'm like, hey, can I get you some like Kleenex or something? I got some Kleenex in our vehicle, something like that. And he's just like, he goes reaching in there and I'm 100% prepared to like, I'm not letting this guy hurt himself. I am wrestling this away from him. I'm like, my head's racing. My heart's racing. I'm like, no, 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 you're not hurting yourself. You're not hurting yourself. And he opens up and he just grabs out a stack of, restaurant napkins or whatever. And he's like, no, I got some of my own. And, he wipes his face or whatever. And he's like, at this point now, it's been a few minutes. It could have been 1 minute. It could have been 15 minutes. I didn't have concept on time right now. I was shivering. I was cold. I was freezing. I was standing there, 0 degree weather with a freaking baseball cap on and a sweatshirt, no gloves, no hat. And yeah, I had gloves and hat in the vehicle, but I wasn't turning away and walking away from this guy. I wasn't grabbing warmer stuff. I was, this was about helping this guy right now. And finally he starts coming to and he calmed down and he was telling me that, he enjoyed playing guitar and, playing some video games and, just, how much he enjoyed hanging out with this kid and he's afraid he's never see the kid again. But his mind's a little bit off of the bad situation that he was in and he was calming down. And I'm like, oh, this is going great. This is good. Like we kind of relaxed and he had like a peace calming come over his face. And I'm like, okay, this is working. We're getting somewhere. And then all of a sudden at this point in time, like I said, I know relatively on time or how long this took. The police officer pulled up off to the side and started walking towards us. And, now I'm thinking, oh, crud, this guy's going to be mad. Does he have a warrant? Does he have, I didn't smell any alcohol. So I wasn't worried about drinking or driving. There wasn't a scent or anything of that. So I guess I didn't think about that side of it. But I'm just like, this guy's going to be so mad at me. I just got him calmed down. I told him to call because I thought it was going to escalate into something bad. And so the officer walks up and I'm shivering and he kind of looks back and he kind of just went like he was depressed and angry again. And I'm like, oh no. And the officer comes walking up to me and I reach out and I put my arm on the officer's shoulder and I go, hey, this is just one of my friends. He's just here to help on us. He's just checking on us. No big deal. This is one of my buddies. I've never seen the guy before in my life, but I was just like trying to reassure him that this is okay and this is calm. And I'm like, this is my friend. He's just here to help. We're just here to talk. We want to make sure you're going to be okay. And so I don't know, like I said, the time frame of how long we had talked. And the officer goes, here, why don't you sit in your vehicle where it's warm and let me handle this for a minute. And so then I walk back to the vehicle, and I roll up the window and I sit down. I get in the vehicle. I'm just like cold. And my wife and son are sitting there and they're like, my son goes, you were getting through to him. He was calming down. He goes, he was doing really good, because they had the window down and they were kind of listening. And he goes, you were getting through to him, Dad. You were helping him out, until that officer showed up. And I go, yeah, no, I feel bad about that or whatever. I didn't know where this was going when I asked you guys to call for help. And another officer comes up and walks up to him and he goes, talk to this guy. And so he comes over to me and he goes, hey, can we go on the other side of your vehicle and talk? And I go, no freaking way. Not happening. I get out of the vehicle and I go, you either getting in my vehicle and we're talking or I'm getting in yours. And he goes, well, I don't have any front seat. I have the computer there. You'll have to sit in the back. I go, I am freaking freezing. I don't care where I sit. So I got in the back of this SUV police officer car. I'm like, this is not normal for me. But I was just like, I don't care. I was freezing. So then, he's talking to me through the cage, and I just explained what happened and kind of the story. And then the officer asked me, well, did you see a gun? Did you this? Did he threaten anything? And I go, no, the only thing he did say to me was that, God won't let him kill himself. He's tried. And that hurt me right there. I'm like, oh man, this guy needs help. And he said, I've tried. And I looked at him and I go, well, if that's the case, God will never give you more than you can handle. He is testing you and he won't give you more than you can handle. He knows you can handle this. And this kid was only like 26 years old. And I go, I'm in my 40s. I'm way older than you. I go, life was tough when I was in my 20s. It was tough when I'm in my 30s. And there's a lot of people it's tough for a long time. I go, I'm in my 40s now. I got kids. I got a wife. I go, things have come around and, I'm here. And I go, that little girl of yours is going to want you there in the future. She doesn't understand what her mom's trying to do right now with everything that's going on, but she's going to want you there in the future. You just got to keep trying, and like, you got to keep going. You got to, you know, and I mean, I like saying, I guess that night was about him keep trying. So it kind of fit into an episode of this, and so I just, yeah, I thought that was a great story to share. And so then, I got done talking with the cop and he's like, oh, we got your number, whatever. If we have any more questions, we'll call you. And he goes, you guys can go or whatever. And I walked back over to that guy when the police officer was talking to him and I threw my hand on his shoulder and I go, hang in there, man. You've got this. I go, you got this. Everything's going to be okay. It was nice to meet you. And so we got back in our vehicle and we were driving away. And I was just like trying to reflect on what had happened and still trying to warm up. And I go to Zach. I'm like, I was sitting there going, wow, this is the second time this has happened to me. And he goes, yeah, it is. He goes, I remember the first time. And I go, you remember the first time? And he goes, yeah, it was like, it was a long time ago. And I go, it was a long time ago. I want to say, I don't know the exact time frame, but it had to be 7, 8, 9 years ago. And I'm sitting here going, I know both you and your brother were there. We were out checking on like deer stands. So it was the fall time of the year or whatever. And we're driving back and it's, getting later. It's not dark, it's gets dark, whatever. It was probably before the time change or whatever. So it's like 5, 6 o'clock at night, whatever. And it wasn't, dark yet. And we're driving on this gravel road and there was one of those cell phone towers and there was a car parked in there. And, usually never vehicles parked there, whatever. There's a car parked there. Didn't think nothing of it. And kind of as you drive by, out of the corner of my eye, see the door was open. So when I saw the door was open, my natural instinct was I looked over there. And I looked over there and I'm like, oh crap. And so I pulled over and I stopped. And I go to the boys, I go, do not look back. Do not get out of this vehicle. You just stay here. Just stay in this vehicle. Do not unbuckle. I will be back. So I parked on the side of the road and I drove past. The vehicle's parked here and I drove past on the gravel road and flipped my flashers on and walk and I start walking down this, you know, this path or whatever. And it was a couple 100 feet. And as I'm, what I'd seen in the vehicle is there was this lady and I didn't know it was a lady at the time, but this person, and this person was hanging out of this car. And that person, this young lady, her butt was still in the driver's seat and her head was 2 inches from the ground. And she was hanging all the way over 2 inches from the ground. And I was just like, oh no, you think everything you just thought listening to this is everything that I thought. So I walk up there, I don't see nothing, I don't see any movement. And I'm just like, I didn't know where to start. So I just kind of walked up and I'm just like, put my hand on the shoulder, that one that was poking up. And I'm just like, ma'am. And I saw just a little bit of movement, a little noise. And I'm like, okay. So I step back like 3 feet, maybe 4 feet. I step back and I'm like, when this person looks up, I don't want to be right in their face. I don't, something's wrong. I didn't want to startle them. And so finally, this young lady, she kind of moves a little bit and I started talking to her, same thing. I started asking her questions and, because now I find out she's bawling her eyes out. And I think she had been crying for so long that she was out of tears. And I was just like trying, it took, I don't remember how, once again, this could have been a half an hour conversation, could have been 5 minutes, but I was just talking to her and just finally got her to sit back up into the vehicle. And talked through her and asked her the questions, got to know her. And long story short on that one was she was a 17-year-old high school kid, and she had found out she was pregnant, and she was ready to give up on life because she thought her mom was going to kill her. She goes, my parents are going to kill me. And I'm like, don't know this person, don't know the parents, don't know. And you just hope that people are understanding. And yes, you're going to be mad as a parent, maybe, but I was just like, trying to talk to her and calm her down and reassure her. And finally got out of her that she had an older sister, and her older sister was in the area. And I'm like, can we call? We had to call somebody. So we called her older sister, and her older sister answered. And so I think I talked to her, and I didn't go into full detail of what was going on. I just kind of said, hey, your younger sisters, and we're where we are. And somehow she at that time sent her a pin on the phone or whatever, so she knew where she was. And it wasn't that far from their house. It was only about a mile down the road, I believe. And so I don't know if her sister was home. I don't remember the time frame. I don't remember her sister pulling up. I know, but I know I didn't leave her there until someone came to check on her and make sure. And so I was pulling away from that. And all these years, these 8 years, 7 years, 9 years, whatever it is, I've wondered, I wonder what happened. I go, I hope I don't, over this next week or two, hear of a young lady, killing herself or something like that, and that she's pregnant. And, so that was always my worst fear. My worst fear was hearing that and thinking of that. And it's like, did I do enough? Was that enough of an impact? You feel bad, but it's just like, you don't know what to do after that point. And, so time went on, never heard nothing. So then kind of was telling Zach, and we were rehashing that story on the drive home, and was saying how I always kind of wondered what had happened and, whatever. And so I kind of wrote this story down for what happened to me this other Friday night. And I was like, it was an eye-opening evening, and I wanted to put it into words and share kind of like this of like how, simple acts of kindness, like we went out of our way. Did other people drive by this guy? Was I the first one to see him? And just luckily I stopped and helped, but I was just like, wanted to kind of share this. Well, with wondering about what happened to that little girl, this other story came full circle. Now it's Tuesday night, Tuesday before Christmas. Next day's Christmas Eve, obviously. So this is just a couple days ago. And my wife, Jennifer, were doing presents, and she's like, we forgot to get something for Cole that we were going to get him, my youngest. And, it's just like, oh, we were right. We have to go get that. And there was a couple other things that we wanted to get for shopping that night. And I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll go after work. We'll get it. The boys are at their mom's house. No worries. Well, I ended up having to work late that night. So it ended up being about 6 o'clock before I left work on that Tuesday evening. So, usually leave work 4:30 to 5, so I'm now an hour behind, and go home, pick up the wife, and I'm like, I'm hungry. I want to go to eat. And we're driving, and kind of she's talking about like, well, we got to go here. We got to do this. What do you think about going here to get this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah. And I'm driving. I'm like, okay. Yep. Sounds good. And I pull into El Tequila. And I'm like, I want El Tequila. Let's go eat there. So we pull in, we park, and she's like, we don't have time for this. It's going to take an hour and a half. And we both get out of the vehicle. She's like, this could take an hour and a half. I'm like, El Tequila doesn't take an hour and a half. It's not that long. We've got so much stuff to do tonight. We can't do this. We got to go. We don't have time to sit down and eat like this. We're just going to have to grab something to go. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Anyways, fine. Sounds good. I turn around and I walk back to the vehicle. And get in. And she kept walking towards the front of the restaurant. So she convinced me that we didn't have time to do this. But then when I made the decision to go back, then she didn't want to go back. And so I drive the vehicle up, and she stands on the sidewalk, and I just go, well, we're leaving. Come on, let's go. Let's go shopping. So then we went to maybe Dick's Sports Goods or whatever, and got something that we needed there for Cole. And if we're going to go to Walmart, and then she said something about grabbing something that we needed from Costco. And so we go to Costco and grabbed our couple things, and I go, I'm starving. I'm a big guy. I'm fat. I got to eat. But anyways, I was like, I'm hungry. And so we get done, we got this super fancy meal, we each got a piece of pizza, and I got the hot dog and soda. So, I mean, we splurged, Yeah, that $5.98 for supper that night. Anyways, so we waited in line. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna run to the bathroom or whatever. And she's standing there waiting. Come back. And I'm walking back, and off the corner of my eye, I see this black jacket. I'm like, look like this. And it's a back portfolio, whatever, of a guy. And I'm like, that's the guy from Friday night. I know it. I just know it. And I could only see the back of his head from here to here. And I knew it. And I walked by, filled up my soda. We went down. Me and the wife sat down at a table, and we're back. And so we're sitting there. And I look at her and I go, the young man behind me, black coat, a little bit of curly hair. That's the guy from Friday night. And she goes, is it? And I go, yep, guaranteed. And she goes, wow, are you sure? And I'm like, yes, I'm sure. And so we're sitting there, and not even 2.5 feet, 3 feet from us, just on the other side of this other table, he sits down with some food and ice cream. And so I just kind of sit down and I look down and I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, I don't want this guy to be mad at me that I called the cops. I don't want to cause a scene. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't want this guy to feel embarrassed that he's seeing me again if he recognizes me. And so I kind of was just keeping my head down, talking with the wife, real quietly, just being mindful, respectful. I'm like, I don't know what situation this guy's in. He looks like he's doing great, but I didn't want to embarrass him. I didn't want to, nothing like that. No matter, I didn't want no mixed emotion, whatever. And so some noise happened off to the right, and I kind of looked up and went like this. And you know how you make eye contact with somebody, but you pretend like you didn't? You're like, oh shit, made eye contact with the guy. And I kind of looked over that way, and I came back and then grabbed another bite. And he just had something small, and he finishes up and he walks. And he stops at the end of the table. And he goes, thank you. And I look up and I see this guy, and he's got a smile on his face. And I smile and I stand up, and he goes, thank you for stopping the other night. It meant the world. It meant a lot to me. And I stand up and I shake the guy's hand, and I do that double handshake, where you grab their arm and you secure. And I go, oh my God, it's so good to see you. I go, you are so welcome. And he's like, I really appreciate you stopping. It really helped. It meant a lot to me or whatever. And I put my hand on his shoulder and I go, you have a Merry Christmas. I'm so happy to see you smile or whatever. That was all that was said. He thanked me and I thanked him for, being there and having, and like I said, he had this smile and his eyes were lit up, and it was not the person I had met 4 nights before that. And it was just like I told my wife, like, holy crud. And we watched him, and he had his thing of ice cream, and he's just finished his food and he's eating his ice cream, and he's got like a pep in his step. He walked through the store, he grabbed something, he's walking out and he's carrying it, and he's still eating his ice cream. And like I said, this guy had such a pep in his step, and he had such a big smile. Didn't ask him any questions, don't know what happened, but it was just like sitting there thinking. And I look at Jennifer and I go, wow, I always wondered what happened to that young lady from how many years ago. And we were wondering a couple days later, like, hopefully this guy's okay. And I mean, we got the sign that he was okay, and it was great. I mean, it was just like, so this was just a story I wanted to tell you guys, something that happened to me personally. And I thought it fit the semper try, always try, and to be kind, and because trying beats quitting. And like, yes, this is about veterans, and yes, this is about, I want to talk to some coaches, yes, this is about these volunteers and stuff like this. But this was in the back of my head. This was kind of a meaning of this is like, keep trying at life. There's people out there that love you, there's people out there that you know they're going to miss you. And so this just helping that young man keep trying, and you know to see his smiling face again, it was just amazing. And I wanted to share this story, and so early into this adventure of a podcast and being able to share this story, and you know talk with my buddy here, and you know doesn't say much, but at least he smiles. So thank you for listening to that little story, and thank you to the people that are reaching out. And the more I want to keep doing this, I just enjoy hearing these stories of people in these other services. And I got the next episode already recorded, and it might be 2 episodes, it might be a lot, but I got 3 hours of footage with this Marine veteran. His name is John Meade. He was in Vietnam War, and I've kind of joked before that, like, not everybody writes a book, not everybody gets a book and a story, and maybe this little video will be a chapter or a page in a book someday. Well, that's going to be different, and I should have grabbed the book, but John Meade wrote a book. He's got a book about his life growing up. He's got his book about his life in Vietnam, about his life after Vietnam, and it's a big book. It's a 2-part book, and it's, The Confessions of a Surviving Alien. And so this guy has a book, and so I get to interview him with him, and I sat down and I talked to him, and we talked for 3 hours, on video, and there's a lot of footage for me to go through and throw these podcasts together, and I'm super excited about that with this. And then he's wrote another book, and I already want to, after having this 3 hours with him and starting to read his book, and he wrote another book he's 79 now, and he wrote another book in his 70s. He went over to the Philippines, and he took the steps of his uncle. His uncle was on the Bataan Death March, and that happened over there, and was a prisoner of war for 3.5 years during World War II. And he wrote a book about that. And so it's another book I got to read, and I can't wait to read that book and go back and interview him and hear more of his stories and experiences about being 70 and retracing every single step of that death march. And he said he didn't eat the whole time he was on it. And he put a big backpack on for extra weight, and he wanted to be, it'd be very difficult for him in his 70s for what, these people went through when they were in their 20s and 30s. So I think that'll be an interesting story too, and I look forward to it. So I look forward to you after this. It'll be next year, happy 2026 coming up. So won't see you till next year on the podcast. Going about 2 months in, and this has been an amazing ride so far. And thank you for my friends, family that have reached out, strangers on social medias, that we reached out and talked and encouraged. And these are great stories. I want to get more stories of veterans. I want to hear those stories. I just love sitting there listening to them. So thank you for tuning in to Semper Tri, and we'll see you next year.